Hello and welcome to the New Jersey Morning Show. I'm Cara DeFalco.
And I'm Mike Favetta. Thanks for joining us. Kara, great to see you on this Friday morning. Now, our first guest introduces a new OSHA rule. There's a proposed rule from OSHA that announces heat, injury, and illness. Here to explain is Associate Professor and Manager for Environmental Safety and Training at Programs at Rutgers School of Public Health, Dr. Koshi Koshi. Dr. Koshi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so happy to have you on. So, can you tell us a little bit about this new proposed rule? What's the goal of it?
Sure, absolutely. Heat and heat stress and injuries related to heat is nothing new. We've known they've existed for many, many years. And we also know that there are a lot of workers getting injured when the temperatures go up and we have heat and humidity. OSHA and the Department of Labor recognizes that as well. And this new standard that is being promulgated and hopefully will pass will give teeth to enforcement, if you will. And as far as the standard goes, we know that there are people who work outside in the heat. We see our construction workers, we see our utility workers, but there are also people who work in factories that do indoor kind of work. So this is a sort of systematic way of looking at where workers are potentially exposed to heat-related stress, and their employers will have to take action to protect them. And this standard will give OSHA that enforcement authority to go in and do those inspections, and it'll also give employers uh, definitive uh, metrics, if you will, for when the temperatures go up, and give them ideas on what to do as far as monitoring goes. So it is all encompassing, and I hope that it does pass.
Dr. Koshi, is there no rule in place now, or is there no protection for employees working in these very hot and humid environments currently? Is that why you believe this is necessary?
Mike, that's an interesting question that you're asking there. There is something called a general duty clause within OSHA, within the Department of Labor standards, and basically it says that employers must uh, monitor for recognized hazards on the work site. So right now, if a worker is injured, a worker is killed, uh, and it's shown that it relates back to heat-related to a heat-related injury, what happens is the employer gets cited under the general duty clause. Unfortunately, within the standards right now, there is no clear metrics, if you. I'm going to use that word metrics uh, as far as how much a worker is supposed to be exposed to, or how much they can be exposed to, how much shade they need, what the employers need to monitor for, what the supervisors need to know. This standard will give definitive numbers and definitive uh, items that an employer needs to watch for. So that's really the benefit for this standard. And also, this might be a time to mention OSHA, not OSHA, NIOSH has a neat heat app, which can be downloaded onto your smartphone. So the way that we know what temperature is, and if you look at or if you watch your local news, you hear the concept of heat index. Well, this looks a little bit further, and there's something called the heat wet bulb globe method, and that gives you a more precise, if you will, analysis of how exactly that day's temperature is going to affect potential workers. And within the app itself, you can see like for a particular area, you can also see like particular time, and it's very very accurate. So that's something that the standard is also trying to put forward. So hopefully when this is passed, it will give the regulators that ability to do that enforcement. And also, just stepping back to your question before, states like California and Oregon already have things on their books as far as heat stress and monitoring and things like that. But currently, there is no like national standard. So that's what this will do. It'll create that national standard, and then we'd have something to turn to and say, well, this is how much a worker is allowed to be exposed to, and if you don't have this, you, the employer, are going to need to get into compliance. So I think that is very important that we give that that direction, if you will. I can't think of a better word for
Yeah, no,
direction.
that's standard. Yeah, and so, doctor, if the rule is approved, what does the timeline look like for it to be put into effect?
Well, the way that a standard works, there's usually a there right now they're in the commenting phase where all of where OSHA, the Department of Labor, takes all the comments into account, and of course every one of them they have to respond to. And I'm not sure exactly when they will be voting on this or when it's going to be passed, but it's usually a couple of months, at least 2 months to 90 days or so before it goes into effect. But employers, as I said, right now, would if a worker is injured, would be cited under the general duty clause of OSHA. But going forward, hopefully when the standard passes, there'll be this say CFR 1910.148. I know that's a lot right there, but that's the actual standard that the Department of Labor OSHA inspectors going out can actually cite. So that's kind of how that works.
Well, Dr. Koshi, thank you. Where can we learn more information about this? There is a website on OSHA's website. This standard is listed. That's a great place to start. I hope folks. I mean, my focus is on worker safety, but anyone that's going out in the heat, if you have asthma, you've got other underlying conditions, you need to be careful. So it's a good idea to download the Zap, and you can see what the actual weather is and what the stressors are in your region. So if you're going out for activities and what have you, you can see that as ahead of time. So I hope folks will download that NIOSH app and NIOSH Heat Index app, and they will use it. Dr. Koshi, I think that wet bulb globe temperature is becoming more of a topic that will be discussed more, especially with hotter summers. Thank you so much for joining us from the Rutgers School of Public Health, and we'll look forward to learning more about this.
Thank you both for having me.
Yeah, Mike, I knew I've never heard of that
Mm-hmm.
wet bulb globe temperature before, but I was like,
Yes.
I know Mike knows exactly what that is.
It is a mouthful, and it's not something that is really studied very often by most meteorologists. It's a very specific metric, which really tells a lot and relates directly to health and heat stress in the summertime, specifically for outdoor events, athletes running in the heat and humidity, because the heat index that we know and we kind of very familiar with in a daily weather broadcast and a forecast, you kind of know that how it feels. But the wet bulb globe takes it one step further and also accounts wind and accounts solar irradiance from the solar
Wow.
radiation from the sun, even the solar irradiance reflected off of blacktop, for instance. So a runner or somebody training for a big athletic event, running in that can really be hurt because of a certain threshold. The body can only cool itself to a certain point.
To a
The
point.
military, for instance, uses any people that are familiar with military training outdoors. That is a metric that's used because so much military training is done outdoors in the heat.
All I know is for all our complaining, the heat I've always said is far more dangerous than the cold.
Sure. And it is. It certainly is. It is the one of the top killers, in fact, of weather when you look at the broad spectrum of weather events.
There you have it.
All right, next up, a recent fire in Newark has left more than 30 people homeless.
Yeah, the three-alarm fire erupted at a multifamily building at 263 South Orange Avenue on Tuesday, spreading to buildings 261 and 265. When firefighters arrived at 12:14 p.m., they found the three-story building in flames.
Firefighters experienced heat exhaustion while battling the fire due to the high outdoor temperatures. A second alarm was called at 1:45 in the afternoon. Fire officials called a third alarm. The fire was extinguished and contained by 3:38 in the
Three
afternoon.
Newark firefighters were taken to University Hospital for heat exhaustion. 35 adults and 16 children were displaced by the fire. The cause of the fire is currently unknown. And again, as we were just talking about, this just continues to be one of those things that we see more often. It becomes more severe. It creates more injuries, like the firefighters dealing with the heat exhaustion, because of the day, because of what's going on top of they're dealing with a fire.
Right, right. That heat not making it easy for those firefighters at all, even trying to cool down, standing on the street away from the event. So, pretty rough conditions there for those firefighters.
Absolutely, absolutely. Coming up, what's shutting down campgrounds at Sandy Hook?
And later, how a fun 50s pastime is making a comeback.